One of the reasons I got interested in this is that the first movie Alden and I made together is called Convinced. And we went around and talked to a lot of atheists, agnostics, about why in the heck they would become Catholic. It was actually before I became Catholic. And that's the documentary that we made out of it. What was interesting about that is that so many of them saw the sex stuff as this huge roadblock. You know, like, the Catholics are nuts. Of course I would never become Catholic, because they're crazy. You know, the contraception, the premarital sex stuff. But then it actually became kind of a big draw, and that's sort of what got me interested. Like, well, what is the deal with it? So this one sort of led to this one. You can get them both out there. Thanks for listening to that. For your patience. Any comments, questions, fruit you want to throw? I'll try to avoid the fruit, but if you have any questions or comments. And if not, that's fine. We can go check the score on the World Series.
I have just an observation. Don, I thought it was great.
Thank you.
But I thought it was incomplete in the fact that the real reason that you made the movie was the real reason you became a Catholic. And the reason why you become a Catholic is because you want a union with Jesus Christ. He's the one who's going to protect your marriage. And I don't mean to.
Yeah, no.
But it wasn't mentioned, and also the commandment wasn't mentioned. You said in the movie that Mr. West said you need a reason why you don't commit adultery.
Yeah, I'd actually add to that. You're sort of true, but I knew Jesus. This is good, because I knew Jesus before I became Catholic. I walked with him for a long time. So it wasn't that necessarily, but what it was that I was convinced, frankly, against my will. It's actually been a pain in my butt to become Catholic. It's a huge career. It's career suicide, family problems, all sorts of stuff. But I was convinced it was true. So then you got to follow the truth. Same deal with this. You think I want to make a movie about contraception? I mean, please. Why would you do that? It's not like. But I was convinced that it was true, and so if it's true, then you got to tell the story. My 17-year-old is studying Solzhenitsyn, who is the great Russian dissident, right, in the gulags under communism. And what a great story that guy has, right? Here he is. He's like, what drove Solzhenitsyn was the power of truth, even in the face of, like, insurmountable odds. You know, like, who in our culture right now would actually buy, except for you fine folks, and maybe not all of you, right, that contraception was a problem. Mm-hmm. Yet, I think it is. So you got to tell the story. So, it's a good, you're right, in some sense, but I'd like to expand on that. Brenda.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you had a question. Sorry. Don't raise your hand. Anybody else?
I just want to say, you hit a lot of great points. Me, myself, being a graduate from college, I think the scenes you put in there and just the things they talked about, really, I saw a lot of that, so it definitely hit me hard, and man, it was just an eye-opener because, usually representing millennials, we don't, millennials, we don't think about this stuff, so it's just, I think you did an amazing job.
I appreciate that, thank you. It's not just millennials. I've had a lot of, 55-year-old women coming to me in tears after the film saying, wow, that sort of made sense of, a lot of my experience, right? They never really put it together. So, I appreciate that. Hopefully it resonates. Mr. Alden.
So even though for those of us who aren't Catholic, we might say, well, wow, I might want to go read this Humani Vitae thing and see how prophetic it was. I do think there is a valid question. I've had a couple of my friends that watch the film online wonder what's the biblical add-on that you would do if you had maybe 5 more minutes, or you wanted to add on something at the end, or you wanted to kind of foundation.
If you wanted to get all
other than just thou shalt not commit adultery.
Well, what's interesting is, you're right. Well, and part of that is just it's all social science, right? It's not. I don't have Bible verses popped up there. I don't even have the catechism or anything. Part of the reason is we want it, in theaters to people who wouldn't otherwise look at it. If you actually look at, I'd actually push you beyond Humani Vitae and actually look at theology of the body. It is tough to get through, But man, is it deep, and it's absolutely drenched in Scripture. I mean, it is the deepest Bible study you will ever read. John Paul II goes and he starts in Genesis and basically walks through the whole of the Bible. And it's all about what's the meaning of life. It starts with Adam and Eve. What's the meaning of life? What is the point of them being there together in the garden naked? That's his starting point. And so that's where I would start too. It's like, what's the point of Adam naked, Eve naked, and why did they later have to put on clothes? And part of it is coming together as husband and wife is the meaning of life. Like, that's what it means to be made in the image of God. And they distorted that. The reason they had to put on clothes is because they had to protect each other from the other person now, because instead of giving themselves fully and wholly, as he talked about, like, for your good, I now could use you. And if I can use you, then the other person has to put up a wall of protection against being used by you. And so clothes are actually protection, right? Like, we don't walk around naked because we know we'll get ogled and abused. In heaven it won't be that way, right? So that's where I would push people, is to, it's all Bible, yeah, that would be sort of the next level. Is actually, theology of the body is like completely Scripture. It's drenched. So it's a good question. I thought there was another question. Yeah.
So I was raised Greek Orthodox, and the church believes that adultery is wrong, abortion is wrong, hooking up is wrong. Well, they have no issue with people using contraception in the state of marriage. So I just have never understood what's the reason for making that leap that contraception is bad because people are hooking up to contraception is bad in a marriage. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I think, again, it goes into, and I'm with you. I grew up evangelical. Everybody, contraception wasn't an issue, not a problem. I think it's that extra level. It's not like we're saying that husband and wife cannot have a great relationship and love each other. It's that the fully giving of yourself completely, like when Damon talked about, sorry, I don't know where that music's coming from. Maybe that's the yank, get you off the stage. I don't know, it's like the Grammys. It adds an extra level. It's like there's a deepness there. We're not saying you're not deep in your relationship. We're saying that it can get even better and deeper. And I know that's a tough sell for people in like super healthy relationships. It's not like we're denying that people have super healthy relationships. It's that taking it to that next level and really like to the level of not using contraception. The testimonies are that it works pretty well if you do it with the right attitude. Some people try NFP and then they like, yeah, that sucked. But so I don't want to, I don't want to put too heavy a gloss on it. But I think, and on another level, like you got to go to that level where, well, if it's bad, then it's bad for everyone. But on another level, the way it was sold in the sexual revolution was not, you should practice this within your marriage in order to regulate birth. It was, you should practice this so that you can be free of marriage and all that nonsense. So that's sort of the difference. Yeah. Anybody else?
First of all, thank you for doing this project. I totally get it, and I agree with everything that was in there. You had mentioned you have a daughter.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters and a son. Yeah.
Okay. So as a young person, I wondered if she saw it and what her reaction was to it.
Yes, both my 17-year-old and my 14-year-old have seen it, and it actually helps my parenting immensely. I sort of joke that I write books or I make movies so that I can hand them to my family, and that was actually the case this time, and it was actually super helpful with my 17-year-old. Don't tell her that, but absolutely was. So, yeah, I don't know how that speaks to our level of communication without the movie, but I definitely noticed that it was good. Cool. Maybe one more. Yeah.
Instead of birth control, some couples want children. Now, if they can't, they go into this IVF. Mm-hmm. And others, they can, but they don't want to go through the pain. So they go through surrogate delivery. Are those valid?
As far as I understand it, and I'm not a doctor of the church, but the Catholic Church, and again, I'm just speaking for them, both of those are immoral, IVF and surrogacy, as far as I understand it. I'm not an expert on either of those, but We listen. We do know. I do know that IVF just on a physical basis is not a good deal.
It's terrible. Every woman
terrible.
that I know
Yeah.
that's undergone IVF 10 years later has cancer
Yeah.
because you're putting hormones into the body and injecting yourself with hormones that you probably shouldn't be. And unfortunately, that's my experience.
It's physically an absolute disaster. So is the pill, by the way. There's one aspect that I didn't include in the movie.
That's what I
And
was
that-
going to say that was not included, maybe statistical information on the effects of the pill on young women's bodies, developing bodies.
A couple reasons for that. One, we had a particular story and it was sort of like a different one. But secondly, there's actually, the data is coming out on that. Sweetening the Pill is, I believe, a completely secular movie that just nails all the physical aspects of the pill. I mean, the pumping artificial hormones into somebody's body in an age when we want like completely organic everything else, right? Not a good deal. And you look into the facts about like breast cancer. I mean, the breast cancer epidemic, I think, clearly connected to the pill and abortion, and it's just so sad because there's a lot of absolutely innocent women that struggle with breast cancer, including many in our families, I'm sure, and. The data is pretty actually clear on that. Unfortunately, the pharmaceutical companies, maybe this is the next doc, big pharma, big sex, all those things. If anybody wants to finance those movies, we'll make them, because the combination of big pharma, big media, means that you don't hear the stories about what the pill does, right? How many ads, who watches network television? Nobody. But if you actually watch network television through the evening, you're getting nothing but drug pills, or drug ads. So if the drug companies are paying for the whole network lineup, how many stories are you going to see on that network about the effects of their pill? Big porn, big media, big pharma. Lots of stories there still to tell. But physically, it's absolutely a disaster for women.
And mentally.
It didn't get in this one because we went a different direction. One that I thought I didn't think this story was told. The physical effects, you can actually find that story if you look. So a lot of good stuff out there. Okay, you guys, God bless. Thanks so much for being here. Come.